Simone says she wants to hear from the Democratic senators. Well, let's ask one. Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware joins us right now. He is, of course, a member of the Foreign Relations and Judiciary Committees. Senator, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune says that using recess appointments to get Trump's cabinet nominees confirmed is an option. We're going to play for you what he said on Fox News yesterday.
Do you then punt to a recess and try to recess the Senate for 10 days and get those appointments in?
Well, it's an option, but obviously it takes, you have to have all Republicans vote to recess as well. So the same Republicans that you mentioned that might have a problem voting for somebody under regular order probably also have a problem voting to put the Senate into recess. You have to have concurrence from the House. There's a process. All this is a process. But I don't think any of those things are necessarily off the table.
So, Senator Coons, you just heard it there. Majority Leader Thune says it's not off the table. Let's get your reaction to this possibility and your Republican colleagues you speak to. How likely is this?
Well, Jonathan, as you've been discussing this morning, a number of President-elect Trump's picks are alarming. Are folks who are just demonstrably unqualified to lead the important, the critical agencies they've been nominated to lead. As you mentioned in the introduction, I serve on both the Foreign Relations Committee and the Judiciary Committee. And to answer Simone's question about what's the posture going to be, speaking for myself at least, I'm going to work with President Trump on his nominees when they are folks who could credibly lead an agency. And I will work as hard as I can to block, stop, or slow those who are just demonstrably unqualified either by their integrity, their experience, or their policy views to lead an agency. The U.S. Department of Justice is a massive agency with 115,000 employees, a $60 billion budget. And it's not a joke. This isn't reality TV. This is reality. The U.S. Department of Justice investigates and prosecutes federal crimes all over the United States and is critical to our national security, to protecting the American people, to enforcing antitrust rules, lots and lots of things that matter to the American people. And our State Department, which Senator Marco Rubio has been nominated to lead, is also a critical global force for good that helps project the American people's interests, values, and power around the world. Senator Rubio is someone I've served with for 14 years. He's seasoned and experienced. He's served on the Intelligence Committee, the Foreign Relations Committee. We have policy differences, of course, but he strikes me as someone who is much more in line with traditional nominees, with the experience, the integrity, the vision to be capable of leading the State Department. So my hope is that Senator Thune recognizes as the newly elected leader coming into this next Congress, that he will have strong pushback in his own caucus if they recess the Senate and hand President Trump the chance to appoint literally anyone he feels like for up to 2 years. That would be setting aside a critical constitutional role of the Senate, the role of advice and consent.
Senator, it's Simone. How are you?
Hey, Simone.
I think that you have been actually quite clear on what your posture is, and a couple other Democratic senators have as well. But my question is, what about the caucus? You know, has the caucus come together and had a meeting about what the posture is going to be? Are we going to see a press conference, if you will, from Senate Dems and leadership? And then when it comes to what happens if the senators and the Republican senators do decide to give for the president-elect what he would like in terms of recess appointments? What happens if they go that route and then you all just don't come back and confirm the rest of the folks and Donald Trump just has a bunch of acting individuals? What then would Senate Democrats be prepared to do or say?
Well, Simone, I can't speak for the whole caucus, but I will tell you that we have other tools. The Constitution does give the president the power to make recess appointments. That goes back to a time when the Senate was only in session a few months a year, and there were long periods. And so the framers decided it was important for the president to be able to keep the government running. It was a government that was dramatically smaller, and it was assumed that the president wouldn't abuse that power. So, look, I'm not going to get ahead of our Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. We met several times this week as a caucus to process the lessons of the election and to debate and discuss our path forward. I will tell you that I think one of the main messages of this election was that millions of Americans want a stronger economy. They want better opportunity and they want lower prices. And I hope we will spend some time focusing on how Trump's plans to try and deport millions of people and to slap huge tariffs on all imported goods, which will then raise costs for consumers, will lead to a weaker economy, to higher inflation and lower growth. We knew this during the campaign. I talked about it a lot in the campaign, yet the average American who was listening to both sides said, we trust Trump with the economy. Now they're going to get to see the difference in the direction he's going to take us. And hopefully there will still be time and room to also debate the dramatic consequences of putting people like RFK Jr. in charge of vaccinations and fluoridation in the water and public health, and the consequences of putting Matt Gaetz, someone who couldn't pass an FBI background check, in charge of the most important law enforcement agency in our country.
Senator, hey, it's Susan Glasser here. How are you today?
Hey, Susan. Good morning. I'm okay. How are you?
Well, lots to discuss. You mentioned the meetings that you had in the caucus to talk about what just happened in the election. I talked with one of your colleagues the other day who said that, it was a really painful conversation. There seemed to be a lot of agreement that immigration really was an issue that hurt some of your vulnerable senators, and in particular, the Biden administration's, sort of taking a long time to come around to the idea that there was actually a crisis that needed to be addressed. I'm curious, what was your takeaway from some of the after-action reports from your colleagues like Sherrod Brown, who did lose his reelection in Ohio?
Well, Sherrod, like John Tester, like many of our candidates for the Senate, ran ahead of our presidential candidate by many points. If Vice President Harris had only lost Ohio by 4 to 6 points, Sherrod would be returning to the Senate. So one of the things that we discussed was how some of our incumbents, like Sherrod Brown, who's well known to the people of Ohio, who's deeply rooted in fighting for the dignity of work, who has stood fast with unions and fought for manufacturing jobs all over his state, actually performed relatively well. There was broad agreement that our candidates and our campaigns were well-funded, well-run, and we had a huge number of volunteers. What we were debating and discussing was, were our policies wrong, or did we fail to connect with middle American voters? I don't think, and most of our caucus doesn't think, that the accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration, investing in manufacturing, in infrastructure, in mental health, in supporting our veterans, in making progress in gun safety, we didn't have wrong policies in terms of the core accomplishments of the administration, but there were some key issues that were not addressed quickly enough or well enough. One of them was housing, and another was border security.